Hello and welcome to another edition of Insight, the Greater Cleveland Partnership feature that focuses upon areas of interest to the Greater Cleveland business community. I'm Steve Lutner, and joining me today is Sante Getty, Vice President of Advocacy for the Greater Cleveland Partnership. Hi, Sante.
Hi, Steve.
Sante, today we're going to be discussing, from an employer's perspective, the recent legalization in Ohio of medical marijuana. Let's start with, how did we get here?
Yeah, a little background. Last year, there was a ballot measure in place that would have legalized marijuana for recreational purposes and medicinal purposes. GCP was one of the first organizations to oppose that referendum, and voters did vote it down. One thing that came of that and that we knew was that polling was very strong in support of medicinal marijuana. Fast forwarding to this year, two different proposals. One was state legislation that offered an alternative to a proposed referendum that could have been on the ballot this November. The state legislation recently passed. The governor did sign it, much more narrow in scope than the referendum, and did include certain protections for employers that the referendum did not. The campaign decided to pull their measure just recently.
So what does this mean, Sante, for employers at this point?
Yeah, the bottom line, Steve, is that if you have a human resources policy in place that does not allow for drugs of this kind, you will still be allowed to let those employees go if they are on medicinal marijuana at that time. Our biggest role here with our partners throughout the state, chambers of commerce throughout the state, was to fight for those employer protections that are in place. In addition, if someone were to use on the job, they would be ineligible for unemployment compensation.
Now, even though the governor has signed this legislation, it's not going to be enacted or take effect overnight. Going forward, there's some more provisions, specifics that need to be hammered out on this. What should employers be doing regarding this going forward?
That's right. The program will need to be in place within 2 years. 3 different entities within the state will recommend rules and regulations for the program. GCP will be a part of that process and advocating for employer rights. Would certainly encourage our employers to take a look at their human resources policies and update them where appropriate. But as time goes on, we can serve as a good resource as well.
Thanks, Sante.
Thank you, Steve.
And thanks for watching another edition of Insight. And the weeks and months to come, we'll be examining more areas of interest to the greater Cleveland business community.